Hi Janet, hello 大家好.
Hello. So let's welcome Sue back, and this is our lesson 3 for Let's Canto Talk. And Sue is our teacher, and she has been living in Hong Kong for about 30 years, and now she splits her time between East Coast and also the US, and she is our Let's Canto Talk Cantonese teacher. And remember, in lesson 2, we learned several things, so let me show you. We learned the numbers, counting, and we also learned the months and days of the week in Cantonese. And we also learned some useful phrases on how to make a date for dim sum. And let's see if you guys remember. 早晨，你點啊？早晨幾好啊？幾時飲茶啊？星期六好唔好啊？星期六係唔係8月6號啊？係啊，係8月6號啊。好啊，星期六飲茶啦。好啊，走先啦。星期六見。So these are some of the phrases that we have used from last time. And for today, we will introduce some new concepts to you. We will first talk about family members and how to address them. We will also go through some pronouns in Cantonese. And Sue will also teach you how to use the phrase to have in Cantonese. And at the very end of the lesson, we will have phrases to use to invite family members to yum cha. Sue is still a little bit under the weather today, so today I will be helping out with teaching some of the portion around the family member section. And then Sue will take over to teach you Cantonese pronouns and also the rest of the classes. But let's start by having Sue to do some review from last week's lesson. I hope you guys are ready for this.
Okay, so hello 大家好. Thank you again for being here. As Janet said, I had COVID last week after our class on Wednesday, and then was tested. I'm feeling better now, so let's do some review. Okay, so first things first, if we'd like to go over the tones again. Remember that there's 3 flat tones. They are tone 1, tone 3, and tone 6, and those are just staying level, very flat. We have 2 rising tones. They're tone 2 and tone 5, and tone 2 is going to go that much higher than tone 5. And then we've got 1 tone that's falling all the way down to the basement, and that will be our tone 4. Okay, so remember, tone 4 is the lowest one. It's going to go even lower than tone 6. Okay, so last week we did practice our numbers, and we used the numbers to practice the tones. So I'm going to go through the number 1 tones first, which are our yat, sam, tat. Apologies for the little bing there. I can't seem to get the messages off my computer. So again, it's yat, sam, tat, and that's 1, 3, and 7. So do you guys want to have a go? We're going to set that bar real high with our first tone, the highest tone. Yat, sam, tat.
Yat, sam, tat.
Yep, sam, tat.
Okay, that's great. Yes, tat. Okay, so now that's our number 1, our flat tone. We're going to go to our, let's see, we've got a 3rd tone there with our, say, number 4 is a 3rd tone, and number 8 is a 3rd tone. So we've got say, bot. You want to have a go doing that one?
Say,
bot.
Say, bot.
Good. Okay, and then we're going to go to the 6th tone, the flat 6th tone, and for that we've got 2, and we have 6, and we have 10. So we've got yi lo sop.
Yi lo
sap.
Yi look sup.
Yi looks up.
Okay, so now I'm going to combine a little bit. We're going to do our yat, say, sop. So we're going for yat, say, sop.
Say, sup.
Okay, and now we've got two of the rising tones. We've got our number 9, which is our mid-rising gao.
Gạo.
Gao.
Good. And you can really hear that one going up, right? And we've got number 5, which is our 5th tone. It's kind of funny, I think, because my voice is a bit scratchy, I can do it actually better than I normally can, because it's kind of nasally anyway, and I'm kind of a little bit stuffed up, so it makes it easier. And then our last one is going to be our 4th tone, that very low lang.
Lang.
Lang. Yep. Okay. All right. Well, that's a little bit of review, just doing the tones. Again, remember, you got those 3 flat tones, set them high, set them low, and in the middle there. And then, of course, the 4th falling one, and then the rising one. So very good. And then, because we knew our numbers, remember last week, the next slide shows us that we know how to do the months of the year, the dates on the calendar, and the weeks, days of the week. So, for example, if I said October, what would you tell me in Cantonese? How to say October?
Yes.
Okay, or you can call Mama.
I can hear someone trying there. We've got our Sop Yu. Sop Yu is going to be our October. It's the 10th month. So we just put the number 10 with the Yu. And then if we had, for example, Wednesday. I'm going down to the last one there. Wednesday, which is our Sing K. So what would Wednesday be?
星期三
Yeah.
禮拜三
Very good. We could also do Lai Bai. I didn't have that on the screen there, but Lai Bai and Sing K are the same. And I chose Sing K Sam because you're going from the high Sing down low K, back up Sam. So it's Sing K Sam.
星期三
星期三
Yeah. So from that, you can really hear that high, low, high, Sing K Sam, right? So very good. And then, of course, we have our ho, our low tone ho, 6th tone. And that's just any number with ho is the date on the calendar. So if you had bat ho would be your 8th day on the calendar. Yep. How about if I asked you to say the 9th day on the calendar?
九號
Yep, go home. Good. Okay, so that's a little bit of review because we've got a lot to do today to fit in our family relations, the verb to have, our pronouns. So I think our next slide is, I'm going to turn it back over to Janet and we're going to learn a lot about characters. It's going to be a lot of fun.
So I'm helping out Sue to do some of the family relations part. And first you see in here is the Chinese character, ma. So this is mom, the character for mom. So in this class, we actually are not really going to learn about the characters, but I do want to introduce you to this one because this one is very interesting. This is a what we call a pictorial phonetic character. So when we see this word, there's actually 2 parts in it. There is the red part, which actually means female, which is a girl. And then we also see the part which is black. This is actually the character of a horse. So why is this? It's because Asian mom or Chinese moms, when they take care of their babies, they kind of carry them on their back. So that's why back in the very, very old days, and we are talking about maybe 4,000 years ago when this character first appeared, this is the way that they describe mom, is that a baby's being carried at the back, just like horses are carrying people, or people are riding on horses. This character is dated back to the Bronze Age, so that is about 4,000 years ago, from the Shang to the Zhou dynasty. It was first found in the Chinese bronze inscriptions. And if you are interested to learn more about these traditional Chinese characters, Sue is hosting a class, and you might want to email her directly to find out more. And of course, with mom, as we all know, things get a little bit complicated at times. And in Cantonese culture, the character mom, it certainly gets complicated. So we'll take a look at this. So when Sue and I, we were preparing this class, and also Wendy as well, we were sort of trying to go through the family member's name that we have to address our family. And it's always a bit of a challenge, even for someone like me who practically grew up in Hong Kong, but not knowing how to address somebody when we see them, let's say in a wedding or in a restaurant. A lot of times we do have to kind of go through who is this to make that relations happen, and then we can kind of figure out what to call them. As you can see in here, the word mama, the mom word, it will appear, different parts will appear in all these things. It's either the character of the female, or you will actually see the character ma in it. And in English, we have one word for aunt or auntie, and then it's for all aunts. But then in Chinese or in Cantonese, there will be 8 different aunts for just one aunt in English. So things get very, very complicated. And part of it is because of the hierarchy sort of order in Chinese families or in Cantonese family. And respect to seniors and to our elderlies is deeply, deeply rooted in our Cantonese culture and in many Asian cultures as well. So that explains why everybody has their own sort of address, have their own sort of a name that you need to call them by. But for this class, we will only focus on the immediate family members because it certainly can get very, very complicated. But if you're interested to find out, you can certainly find out either from this chart, or there is always a book in the library where we can help you as well. And of course, there is internet where you will always find the information as well. So let's take a look at this. So we are going from the very, very basis first. And here you see is we have a dad and mom in here. And I did include several dads and several moms on how you can call them. I highlight the one that you can choose to use. And these are the ones that is quite popular to use. But as in English, we can call dad or daddy. Or for mom, we can call them ma or mommy or mama. So the same as Cantonese is where we have different words to call them as well. So the first one we have in here is ba. So that's often how I think most of the Cantonese kids will call their father Baba. And sometimes as they get a little bit older, sometimes they will call them Abba. And then, of course, some will choose to call Daddy.
Daddy.
And then we also have a very colloquial one, which is Lo Dao. Lo Dao is very, very colloquial. And then it sounds like it means very old. And the Dao, and sometimes it sounds like bean. When my son was younger, he used to ask me, how come we call Dad Old Bean? But then Lo Dao is a very colloquial sort of a saying of father. But the one that you might want to choose to use, or you might want to consider to use, is Baba. So this is the most common one. And then the other ones is really for your reference. And then the same as for Mama. We have Mama, which is in the first Ma is tone 4. And then we have a higher tone, ma, so it's mama. And this one, we are going to introduce grandma in our later slides, but make sure that you will say the tone correctly, because mama and mama are for moms and grandma, but then it's the tone difference that make it different. So it's mama is what we normally use. And then same with abba. We also have ama as well. And then usually ama is, when the kids get a little bit older, they don't want to call mama. It sounds very maybe slightly babyish. So then they will call ama. And then they can also call mommy, so which is just like mommy. And then I know that for some, especially guys, sometimes when they call them ma, they like to call lomaji. So this is another very colloquial one. And even they can just say maji as well. So these are for sometimes like the guys when they get a little bit older and then they just don't want to call mommy or mama, and they just call them lomaji.
But that's one thing, Janet, I noticed a lot is that like I would never call my mom mommy. I don't know why. That would seem really like just really for younger kids. But in Hong Kong, a lot of times even my friends call their moms mommy. And I thought that was so kind of nice in a way that they keep that. Even older people will call their moms mommy. It's not just reserved for like really young kids like it is. Well, at least for me in the States, it's like I stopped calling my mom mommy, I think when I was like 4. But yeah, it's quite nice.
Yeah, I think the comment in the comments, someone did mention that a lot of girls, they like to call mama, mommy.
Nami, yeah.
And then for the boys, they just call ama or mama or lomaji. When the mom gets a little bit older and then the son gets a little bit older. All right, so in here, then we will talk about the siblings, which we have. In here, we have our gogo, his brother. And again, I highlight the ones that you can consider to use because there are so many ones. And then if you just want to sit with the basic ones, the highlighted ones will be very basic ones. And then the first one is gogo.
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 And we can also call gogo ago.
Ago.
And then these are all older brother or the eldest brother. That would be gogo or ago. And then you can also call them daigo.
Daigo.
Daigo, which is the oldest one. Dai means big brother. So it's daigo in here. And then there's also the numbers that you learned from last week. And we can also have igo, which is the second brother. So whenever Chinese family, if there is more than, let's say, one brothers, then the brothers will also have the hierarchy. And then they kind of go by number. So you have the dai, and then you have the yi, and then you have daigo, yigo. If you have a third brother, then that will be samgo. So we have gogo.
Gogo.
We can also have ago.
Ago.
And we have oldest brother, daigo.
Daigo.
And we have the second brother, which is
Igo. Igo.
And then samgo, which is the third brother, if there's any.
Gogo.
And then for the youngest, then it will be sailo or dai dai.
Dai dai.
Dai
Dai dai.
dai dai. So it's a 6 tone to a 2 tone. Dai dai. Right. And then we move on to the sisters in the household. So again, we start by the oldest one. So we have Jie in here, which is Jie. Jie is also the oldest sister. But a lot of times, instead of calling Jie, I think in Cantonese family, we like to call them Ga Jie. So Ga Jie literally means the sister in the family, or the oldest sister in the family. Ga Jie, Ga means family or home. So we have Ga Jie, and we also have Dai Ga Jie. Again, same as the Dai Go, which is the Dai. Then you have your big sister, and then you have your second sister, which is the Yi Ga Jie. And then you have your third sister, which is Sam Ga Jie. Yeah. And then when it comes to the little sister, then we call them Mui Mui. Or we can call them Amui. Or we call them Sai Mui. Sai
Sai
is
mui.
small, so small sister. But most of the time, I think people use mui mui, so that's why I highlighted mui. So mui mui is a fourth tone and then followed by a two tone. Mui mui. So again, these down here, these are just sort of like extra, which is siblings, and then we just call them 兄弟姊妹. So sometimes people might ask you, oh, do you have any siblings? And they will just say, 你有冇兄弟姊妹啊? So when they say 兄弟姊妹, they're just asking whether you have any siblings or not. And then depends on the sibling. Then if you have a boy-boy sibling combination, then you have 兄弟. And then if you have sister-sister combo, then you have 姊妹. But if you have a brother and sister, then it becomes 兄妹. And if you have a sister-brother, then you have a 姊弟. So all of them, the relation, it depends on how the combo is like, and then these words, they can connect with each other. Okay, so we have our gogo, and then we have our gaze, and then we have our dai dai, and we also have our moi in here. Okay? All right. And then we move on to the grandparents one now. So the grandparents are kind of up here. Grandparents is quite easy, I think, because usually people would just use the ones that I highlighted in here. So sometimes they will use the other one, but I think most of the time they use the double word. And then for our dad's father, which is the paternal side grandfather, then we have yeah. And then we have the paternal side grandmother, and that is mama. So remember when we were talking about mom, which is mama. So mama is first tone, but then in here, mama is the fourth tone. Mama, which is kind of like a lower tone. And then from yeah mama, which is for the father's side, then we move on to the mom's side. So for maternal grandfather, we have gong gong. And then for maternal grandmother, then we have po po. So we have yeah mama, gong gong, and po. All right. And then when people get married, and they also get new titles as well. So for husband, in Cantonese family, if we go very, very formal, then it will be like 先生. So let's say you marry someone and you want to introduce your husband, then you will say 呢個係我先生. So it's being used very formally, but when you're at home, as a term for endearment, then you normally would call them 老公. So this is more for when you use it in the family. But when you were to introduce your husband to your friends or to someone else, then we will say 先生. But most of the time at home, we just call them by 老公, which is kind of right here when they get married. What you're seeing here is a tea ceremony, or a tea ceremony that's about to happen. And then on this side, then you have the husband's dad. And the husband's dad, once the son gets married, then they become the 老爺. And then the mom, the husband side's mom, becomes the 奶奶, which Sue actually has said that before, that a lot of times Cantonese, they might use the L instead of the N. It actually should be the N, so it should be 奶奶 instead of 奶奶. That's why we kind of stick with using the traditional, the formal one here, which is the 奶奶. Okay. And then on the wife side, then you have this lady here, then she becomes the 老婆. But again, if we were to use it formally, then it will be tai tai. So if the husband was to
Tai.
introduce his wife to his friends, then he will say, 呢個係我太太. But as an endearment, then he can also say, 呢個係我老婆. Or at home, he will certainly say that this is my 老婆. Or 老婆.
老婆
And then for the wife's dad and wife's mom, it's 外父
外
and 外母. These two, I found them less to be used sometimes. I think because the word 外 in here, it literally means outside or external. So it feels very not close. So a lot of times I think the 外父外母 ended up people just use 阿爸 or 阿媽. But the term is there, the formal term is there, this 外父 and 外母. Okay, so we have 老公, we have 老婆, and then we have our 老爺,
老爺
奶,
奶奶
外父,
外
外
父
母.
外母
And here we actually included some of the very generic address to seniors or people that are older than you. But again, you have to kind of use this rather carefully. I can tell you that even at the library, sometimes if we address someone by not the right form of address, sometimes they will get upset. So make sure you use it. Make sure you use it carefully though. And then there is the first one is the generic address to elder males or older males. We would call them 爸爸. A lot of times I will only use this if the person has really, really white hair and it's obviously much, much older than me. Then I would use 爸爸. And then for a female that is much older, then it will be a 婆婆.
婆
So
婆
which is the same as grandmother that we just saw. But again, this should be really used carefully only to females that's so much older than you, which is 婆婆.
婆
And
婆
then these two I actually did not highlight, especially this one, because this is the one that got into trouble before, where I think we call someone sok sok or a sok, and then they didn't like it because they thought that this is too old to call them a sok or sok sok. But sok sok and a sok is really to address middle-aged men in Cantonese culture. And then for middle-aged females, then we will have ayi, which is right here, or yi, ayi, or yi. And literally it can mean auntie. And sok sok literally can also mean uncle as well. But let's say you don't really know that person and you want to be as polite as you can, then just stick with the very generic 先生,
先生
先生,
先生
and 小姐.
小姐
先生, 小姐. So let's say if you do not know their age or you don't really know them well, then you can just call them by 先生, 小姐. This 先生 in here is the same as the 先生 that you saw in our previous page. When the men get married, when the wife was to introduce the husband formally, this is the same 先生 as well.
先
And
生
then in Cantonese
先生
family, 先生 can also be used as, I think it's just as an address before your last name. So let's say, 我姓張, 我係張小姐, 你姓陳, 你係陳先生. So we just put the last name in the very front. So instead of Miss Chang or Mr. Chan, we call them 陳先生, 張小姐. So the first name actually goes in the very first. Okay. All right. So we actually have so many more in the family that we can go through, but we really don't have the time. However, you will see in here it's all the aunts, uncles, and also all the different cousins as well. So this is a reference for you to look it up. And there's actually video by Twinklebox Cantonese that explains the family relations in Cantonese really, really well. So thank you, Trinklebox Cantonese, for this slide in here, which I actually took a screenshot of it to show it to you because it really clearly to show some of the relations in here, and you will be able to find maybe where you are in the family or how you'll be calling some of the in-laws or some of the cousins that are younger or older than you. All right, so I'm gonna move this back and then it's back to Sue. Sue, you're on mute.
Oh no. Okay, sorry. Yes, so what was I saying? That it was always interesting when we would go out to family dinners or wedding banquets or something, because at least a half an hour, I'm not sure if you guys had this experience, but at least a half an hour would be spent determining what, like what our kids would call the different relatives in the family. It is so complicated that if your family knows them all very well, I'm very impressed, because when we would go for dinners, it would take about a half an hour to kind of go through the different cousins and aunties and uncles and which side. And it was always very interesting. So that was a lot of information.
Before
Yeah.
I let you start your piece, there's
Okay.
actually a quick question on how to address an unmarried woman. So I think for married or unmarried women, it's very safe to call both Xiu Zhe.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Xiu Zhe would be the safest. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. See what's that. And I put in the comments as well, that being very careful about calling somebody older than they are. I mean, I pretty much don't mind what people refer to me as, but I do remember the first time someone called me Guai Pa, the paw, and I was like, no, I'm not that old yet. I'm still a Guai Mo. So that was all a bit of fun, but yeah. So moving on, because we don't want to take up too much of your time, just know that whatever we went over before was a lot we know, but take from it what you know and get on to Twinklebots and have fun with that and learning as much as you need to know. For me, I know the maternal side. I don't even know it as well, because my kids would never call my side of the family in a Chinese way. And so I'm much more familiar with the paternal side of the names, and that is kind of natural. But moving on now, I wanted to introduce you guys to how to say have or have not, because this is a very special verb in Cantonese. It has its own kind of thing going on, and it would be both are the fifth tone, so it's that low rising, and it's going to be our yao, mo, and that's a question.
Mao, Mao,
Good. Perfect.
Mao,
Mhm.
Mao,
Yao
Perfect.
Mo.
Very good.
Mao,
Yao Mo.
Good. Yeah, just get that scooping down, yao mo. And that's a question. If you've got both of them together, have or have not, that's your question all by itself to say, do you have? You don't need that. Remember, every other time we've learned it, it's been like, hi, hi. And we use that in the middle of the verb to make a question. But for this one, a question all by itself is yao mo. Okay, so that's going to be, do you have or don't you have? Basically, do you have something? And your answer, again, in Cantonese, we don't really have just a yes or a no, a generic yes or no. So you're going to be answering mo or just mo.
Mo.
Mo,
Mo, good. Yeah.
Mo,
Mo. And you'll hear that a lot. And that means basically, no, I don't have. Right. So if somebody asks you, like, 你有冇蘋果? I always use 蘋果. It means apple. 你有冇蘋果? 冇啊. Like, no, I don't have. So it has that meaning of I don't have, but it's used a lot to say no. And likewise, you'd be saying 有 if you do have. So yes, I have. 有啊.
Yao,
Yao.
Yao,
Yao.
Yep.
Yawa,
So you might, if you've been around Cantonese speakers a lot, you might just hear sometimes it's random mo wa or yao wa. And you're wondering what that is. That's basically their way of saying, yes, I have, yao wa, or no, I don't have, mo wa. Okay, so we're going to use these now in asking questions about your family. And do you have an older brother, younger sister? Okay, so I think the next slide, let's see, what's that one?
冇話老公
mo老公. Okay, you could say that could be an answer to your no, and then talking to your husband, right? But first I wanted to move on. I think the next slide there, we're going to get into a pronoun because we need to have a pronoun if we're going to ask a question. And the first one we're going to do is our ngõ. And again, that's your fifth tone, same as the yao mo. Ngõ.
ngõ,
Ngõ.
Now that's going to be your I and it's going to be your me because the pronouns in Cantonese are pretty simple. It's just the one ngõ and it could be me, it could be I. Okay, so ngõ. And if you want to make it plural and make it we or us, just add the they. It's your sixth low tone, flat tone they. So ngõ they.
ngõ tây,
ngõ tệ,
Ngõ tây.
Ngõ tệ.
Yeah, that was really good. Kind of scooping up ngõ they and then flat ngõ they. Okay, so now I think we can get into a question. I think so. The next slide is going to be, yes, let's practice by saying, not a question yet, but I have two older sisters.
lăng,
Okay, so we're going to have our I and then our have two. Now I want to point out something really special here about Cantonese numbers. We didn't talk about it last time because we were doing numbers on the calendar. But if you've got a quantity of two, this is really special for the number two. It's the only number that does this. But if you're talking about two of a quantity, you've got a special word and it is our learn.
Learn.
Can you try that one?
lèo,
Learn.
Good. It's also a fifth
Oh.
tone. So we've got our pronoun I, our word to have, and our number two quantity all doing the same tone. So ngõ, yao, learn. Can you try that?
ho, dấu, lèo,
Learn.
Ngõ dạo lẻng.
Very good.
dấu, lèo,
Nhổ chảo lộn.
Yep, all the
Ngõ,
same fifth
yao.
tone, that low rising ngõ, yao, learn. Now the last part of the sentence is going to be a measure word for people, which is go. It's the G-O, but you pronounce it as go, more like, yeah, good, go. And it's just your third flat tone,
Go.
go.
個
Mhm.
ho,
Ờ.
And then we've got older sisters. Now you're going to notice we don't have to do anything to make it plural. It's going to be simply what Janet talked about before, which is our fourth tone, ze, high tone, ze,
chế,
ze, ze.
Yeah.
chế,
Yeah.
Good. Yep, ze, ze. And I can see, Frank, thank you in the comments if you're augmenting and adding to this. You don't use learn. I can't see the whole comment, but it's just for a quantity. So if you've got a quantity of two older sisters, the whole sentence is ngõ, yao, learn, go, ze, ze. Can you try it?
dấu,
ngõ dạo
dấu,
lẻo
lèo, có
Go.
chế,
Để.
我
Để.
有兩個姐姐
Yeah, really good. I know it's difficult for you all to have a go at saying it, but it is your 5 tones 3 times. The fifth tone, ngõ, yao, learn, go, ze, ze. Ngõ, yao, learn, go, ze, ze.
ngõ dạo lộn cột chế.
Great. Okay. So now we're going to go to moi moi, and that's our younger sisters. Moi moi. Okay, those are the last 2
Moi.
words in the sentence.
Mùi muối.
Good. Fourth tone, and then that second rising tone. Moi moi. Now the rest of the sentence is pretty much the same, but we're using we and we're using for. Okay, so our we is going to be ngõ they.
ngõ tây,
Good. And then have is our yao.
dấu, dấu,
And then for is going to be say go.
4個
So 我哋有4個妹妹。
我哋有4個妹
我
妹。
哋有4個妹妹。
Good, good. So that's pretty much using our pronoun for I and we.
我
Again,
大
you'll notice 兩 is a quantity of 2, and we don't have any plural form. Just by virtue of saying 2 and 4, we know that it's a plural sisters with an S. So we'll move on to learn the pronoun you, which is again 5th tone. So sticking with that 5th tone, low rising, nei.
你
And
你
你
yep. And our plural for that is going to be nei they.
你哋
你哋
Perfect. Okay, we're going to move on and get practice with the sentences. For again, we're going to do you have 3 older brothers. 你有3個哥哥。
你有3個哥哥。
你有
你
3
有3個哥哥。
你有3個哥哥。
Yeah, those are really good. You've got your 2 5s going up high for the 3, which is some. And that go is always going to stay flat in the center there, your measure word for people, and then go. So now the next one, you all, which is going to be using that they, that same kind of pronoun, or the they pronoun, making it plural. 你哋有一個弟弟。
你哋有一個弟弟。
Yeah. So if you guys don't have a chance to say this out loud on the screen, what I'm hearing sounds really good. Okay. Sounds like you guys are getting these tones, the ones that are following or speaking them out loud. Okay. Our third pronoun to learn is 佢, and that's 5th tone as well. 佢. 佢. This is, and then we're going to add that same plural pronoun, they. So 佢哋.
佢哋。
佢哋。
佢哋
佢哋。
Yeah, good. 佢哋. And that's they or them. So our sentences are going to be, he has one older sister. 佢有一個家姐。
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 Very good.
佢有一個家姐。
Your gate. Sorry. Okay, that was really good. And our gate is both that high tone gate. I want to see this comment here because I think it's something about this. Oh, Brendan, 佢 with an R sound at the end. 佢. Maybe imagining things? I don't think so. I've never really heard it with an
I
R
don't think
at
there's
the
an
end.
R. It's just 佢。
佢.
佢有一個家姐。
Yeah. But that's really funny. Well, this is a complete aside, or it sounds like 佢. Yeah. For in Hong Kong, at least, it's always just 佢 with just that open-ended 佢. Yeah, 佢哋. Yeah, good. Okay. And then moving on, then we're going to just look again at the, or did we read the 4? No, we didn't. Sorry. 佢哋有4個弟弟。
佢哋
佢哋有4個弟弟。佢哋有4個弟弟。
4個。
4個。
Yeah, 4個. And that's 4 younger brothers. So very good. And so just to review, once you know the 我, 你, 佢, you just have to add the they after it to make it plural. Okay? So 我哋, 你哋, 佢哋. Yep. So that's pretty simple when it comes to pronouns. As soon as you know the I, you, and he, him, or he, she, and it, you can just add they and make it plural. So again, we have our 有冇, which is to have or have not.
冇
冇啊 is no, I don't.
啊冇啊
有啊 is yes.
有
I have.
啊
Yep, good. And then moving on. Yeah, I just wanted to point out again that 有冇 is pretty special and it's really unique to the verb to have. Most other verbs are going to form it just like we did. I think the next slide here, we've got our 係唔係. Yeah.
係唔係？
係唔係. Good.
係
And that's exactly how the majority of verbs are going to form a question in Cantonese. You've got the verb, you've got and then you repeat the verb. So like, just for example, 係唔係, which we learned last week, is it? And your answer is going to be 唔係, meaning no, or 係, meaning yes. That's just a bit of review. We had that last week. Now we're going to learn a new one, which again is going to follow that same pattern. And it's going to be go or not go, which is your third tone, ho, ho,
開
Mhm.
開
ho, ho, which is go or not go. Ho, ho, like, are you going?
去
Ho,
唔去啊？
mhm.
開啊
去唔去食 pizza？
Yes, please. Ho. I want to go and eat pizza. Yeah, but ho is just asking, are you going or not? And your answer is going to be ho. No, no, I'm not going. Ho.
唔去
Ho.
我唔去。
And again, you could add your 我 from like I, 我唔去, I'm not going, or 我去, I'm going, right? Yeah, yes, I'm going. 我去. Okay, so let's practice using those words. Now, I know this looks really long and you're like, I don't know if I can say all this. So let's break it down. We're going to have our pronoun, which is 我, right? That's our I. Now, the next thing we're going to do is talk about the time. Now, in Cantonese, usually you put the subject before the time. In English, we'd say like Saturday, if you read along on the bottom, Saturday, I'm going to Yamcha with Grandpa and Grandma. But in Cantonese, the traditional word order is usually I, Saturday, am going, or I, Saturday, with Grandpa and Grandma are going to Yamcha. So the word order is a little bit different here. So you'll follow along and be 我 I 星期六. Try just that.
我星期
我星期六
我星期六。
Good. 我星期六 is just I Saturday. And then you're going to say with, which is your tone.
同
Good. Home. And here we go with the next two are going to be grandpa and then the next two are grandma. So we've got
公
gong and paw.
公公婆婆
So we've got I Saturday with grandpa and grandma. 我星期六同公公婆婆.
同公公婆婆
Good. Now we've got go, ho,
開
and then 飲茶.
飲
飲
茶
茶
So if you wanted to say, for example, I'm going to Yamcha, you'd simply say 我去飲茶. So let's just try that. Let's take out all the middle parts and just say 我去飲茶.
我係飲茶。
茶
飲係飲茶
Yeah, good. 我去飲茶. I'm going to Yamcha. Now let's say I Saturday am going to Yamcha. 我星期六去飲茶. Good. 我星期六去飲茶.
星期六茶。
Yeah. I Saturday am going to Yamcha. Now let's add in the grandparents. 我星期六同公公婆婆去飲茶.
我
我
星
星期六同公公婆婆去飲茶。
Good. I know that's a really long sentence, and we threw in the day of the week, and we threw in the grandparents and going. And Priscilla asks, is there a word for and? It's interesting because a lot of times in Cantonese, they don't put the and in. They'll just say, 我公公婆婆去飲茶, and they won't put that word in. But the word for and is actually tong, mai, that word right there, which I translated as with, but it really is I Saturday and is that word tong. Thanks, Frank. Yeah, tong mai is your word for and. And here it's being used kind of as a with, and as a meaning with, to translate that into English. But the literal meaning of tong is and. Yeah. So now here's another one. If they're saying Saturday, I'm going to Yamsa with grandma and grandpa, and you want to say, hey, older sister, do you want to go? So gaze is your older sister. Gaze, first tone, gaze. Now, yeah, now we've got our you, which is nay, and then
Hoi, hoi,
and sorry, this ho here is also the third tone. I don't know how the number one snuck in there, but that's also a third tone. Ho, yeah. Good. Gaze, lấy hơi唔hơi à? Good. And her answer could be hơi à, right? Yeah, I'll go. Now she's going to ask, are mom and dad going? Okay, so we've got dad, mom, go, go, ah. So hơi à, papa, mama, hơi唔hơi à?
Papa, Mama,
Yeah. And so you can see we don't really have to say the and, but in English, you really wouldn't say, are mom, dad going? Are mom, dad going? It would be really odd not to use that and, but a lot of times in Cantonese, they just drop it. They don't need to say papa thong mama home, papa mama home. They just run it together, and you don't need the and, which is kind of unusual for us English speakers, because you wouldn't say, are mom, dad going? It would be kind of weird, but you can do it in Cantonese. And our next one could be, I would say like, yeah, they're going. You could say佢哋, right? Just to be specific with the there,佢哋, but if you know you're talking about them, mom and dad, you just say, you can just, going. Papa, mama, 想食蛋撻.
Papa, Mama, 想食蛋撻.
Yeah, very good. So, I'm gonna throw that one in there. The want to, and eat, we should know from our very first lesson, like sek is to eat, but the sung, your second tone sung, is your want, and we're gonna feature that more in our next lesson. But our lesson 4, which is going to come up next month, but I thought I'd throw it in there just to give you a new word to look up, which is sung, and that means to want. So papa, mama, mommy, papa, sung sek, they want to eat, sung, want, sek, eat, sung sek, dan tat. Dan tat is egg tarts. So sung sek dan tat. And that's mommy papa. For me, I usually call my in-laws mommy papa, which is kind of funny because we'll use the mommy and then the papa part of it instead of daddy, mommy papa. But here we've got papa, mama, 想食蛋撻.
Papa, Mama, 想食蛋撻.
Yeah, so that was a little bit of dialogue. I know we went really quick through it, but I know, Janet, you've done wonderful to have the recordings up for you guys to practice, and also some other information and resources that you can use to learn what you need.
And I apologize, I think my microphone was having some issues in the beginning. So I hope you were able to hear me. If not, just call the library and then I'll talk to you. Anyway, so we are going to take a short 3 weeks break, and as many of us are still having some summer plans that goes on, and we will see you guys again on August 24th. So we will be giving you a 3-week solo book break, and if you have time during this 3 weeks, be sure to check out Sue's Cantonese Corner, her Instagram, and Twinklebot's Cantonese on YouTube, and learn about that family tree again. And remember, our librarians also put together a very useful resource list for you, and there is a particular database that I would recommend you to use, which is called the Pronunciator. And then in there, you will be able to practice a lot of vocabularies in it as well. So if you guys have any question, maybe we can take a few questions for Sue.
Sure, and I just wanted to say as well, I'm having such issues with my CantoLingo site at the moment. So yes, if you are interested in character classes, I'm going to be starting a new level 1 in September. Just email me at hello@cantolingo.com, because right now the site is not having a bit of issues with it. So, but yeah, I would love some questions if anybody has any questions.
And I do know that we go very, very quickly, and there's actually a lot of information. Again, Sue said, take in what you can and then learn very slowly. It's okay.
Yep. Watch lots of movies.
And listen to a lot of Cantonese songs.
The Hong Kong version of Family Feud. Ooh, that's a good one. Is there the Hong Kong version of Family Feud to be quite helpful? I would love to look at that myself.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I knew like the 小姐, like it can be like miss, but it's because I speak Mandarin, and I knew like it also means like escort, so it's another term for derogatory. So in Cantonese, is it polite to call like a young woman 小姐?
I think maybe I can speak to that. Yes, 小姐 sometimes can mean someone work in the night, what do you call it? Yeah, nightclub.
Yeah.
But then I think it depends on the context that you're using it. Usually, I think it is more safe to call someone 小姐 than, let's say, calling someone 阿姨 or something or a pop too.
And do you have like a term called like in Mandarin it's called 女士, like lady? So do you have that term in Cantonese called lady?
I think 女士 is a very formal use for a term. Maybe, if you're in the government building, maybe making a passport or whatnot, then if they were calling in a window, then they may say 陳女士, come to window number 12 or something. But 女士 usually is more formal and older too, possibly. I would hear 小姐 quite a bit, and then sometimes I think here in Chinatown they also say 阿哥 or 阿姐 quite a bit too.
Okay.
Oh,
thank you.
Yeah, in the library people love to call us 姑娘. But 姑娘 can also mean a nurse. And 先生, someone did ask that 先生 can mean teacher, but then the 先生, the character, the writing itself is actually a little bit different. It may sound similar.
先生 is also Mr., right?
Mister and also teacher.
Oh, teacher.
Yeah, but just be careful when you call 阿叔 or 阿婆 or 阿伯. I think those are the ones that you really need to be careful of.
You also call like 老師, like teacher?
老師, yeah. I would say so too, 老師.
Okay.
Oh, in Hong Kong, sometimes they just call, hey, Missy.
You see. Thank you.
All right. So we will see you guys in about 3 weeks, and practice Cantonese while you can.